A few days ago, I made a video looking at some analysis done by Dr Shiva Ayyadurai and the response of Matt Parker from the YouTube channel Stand Up Maths. These are the two videos. In my video, I proposed that there was a flaw, or at least a misinterpretation, in Matt Parker's video when he took Dr Shiva's Trump-centric plot and made a Biden-centric view of the same data. I've since seen hundreds of comments arguing the opposing points of view on this subject, and Dr Shiva has also done a second video commenting on Matt's response. In Matt's video, he did invite people to show him where he's wrong, so I thought I'd give it a go. What I'd like to do in this video is expand a bit on why I think Matt has misinterpreted the data, and then gauge everyone's opinion by getting viewers to like or dislike this video to show if you agree or disagree with me. Ideally, you would start with an open mind, watch this video and then vote at the end. Feel free to leave a comment also, especially if you see a flaw in my logic. If you're not already familiar with this subject and want a bit more background, check out Matt's video first. I want to stress here that this video is absolutely not attempting either to endorse or to debunk Dr. Shiva's theory. It's only aimed at investigating the part of Matt's video where he essentially says the theory is internally inconsistent. So please only vote on that specific question, not whether you think there is fraud or not. I'll put the exact question to vote on at the end. I'm making a separate video where I address what the Y parameter on Dr. Shiva's plot might actually mean, so if you want to be notified when that video is published, subscribe to this channel. So start with an open mind and bear with me for a few minutes. Dr. Shiva produces a plot with a parameter on the y-axis that he argues is a measure of Trump candidate votes being more or less than might be expected based on the Republican straight party vote percentage. He plots this parameter directly against the Republican straight party percentage on the x-axis, with increasingly Republican precincts as you move to the right. You can see this argument at this time slice in Dr. Shiva's original video. Then Dr. Shiva plots the Kent County data and gets this plot. Dr. Shiva's interpretation is that this plot shows a small increase of Trump votes in low Republican areas and a large decrease in high Republican areas. The part of Matt's video I want to address is this part here, where he presents these two plots. The lower plot is basically a copy of Dr. Shiva's original plot. Then Matt uses a kind of reductio ad absurdum argument to try to show that the theory does not make sense. Matt's logic is essentially, imagine there's an antimatter version of Dr. Shiva, the Anti-Shiva if you like, who decides to use the same theory but plots the equivalent Biden parameters instead. If the theory is consistent, this should show the same net vote shifts, and he produces the upper plot. Then Matt concludes that there should be an upslope on this Biden plot, and there isn't, so the theory isn't internally consistent. It's this last step where I think there's a misunderstanding, and here's why. Matt says you would expect the anti-Shiva plot to show an upslope. To explain why this is a misunderstanding, let's look back at what we said about the Dr. Shiva plot earlier. We said the Dr. Shiva plot shows a small increase of Trump votes in the low Republican areas and a large decrease in high Republican areas. Now we and Matt expect to see the corresponding opposite in the other plot. That means the anti-Shiva plot should show a small decrease of Biden votes in the low Republican areas and a large increase in Biden votes in the high Republican areas. Because the x-axis on the upper plot is effectively in the opposite direction to the lower plot, that's exactly what it does show. This is more clearly demonstrated on this copy of the plots that I've made here. They're the same as Matt's plots, but with different scales. If I pick some highly Republican precincts and show them on both plots, you can see them at opposite ends of the two plots. First, I'll put on Dr. Shiva's baseline horizontal line that theoretically shows the expected result if no vote shifted, and I'll use a simple linear fit through the data as Matt used. Let's get another copy of these plots. If we want to compare the plots better, We can flip the X scale and show both plots showing increasing Republican precincts to the right, and you do see the upslope that Matt expected. We could alternatively flip the scale on the other plot, so that both plots show increasing Democrat precincts to the right. So all four plots show exactly the same thing. There's no inconsistency. That means that we can't use the logic that the theory is internally inconsistent to debunk it. With Dr. Shiva's interpretation of what the Y parameter is showing, the anti-Shiva would conclude exactly the same thing as Dr. Shiva. So here's the conclusion. There's a flaw in Matt Parker's argument that the Biden-centric plot and the Trump-centric plot are inconsistent and show opposite things. So think about this for a second, and then vote as follows. If you agree with me that Matt is not correct, then like this video. If you disagree with me and think that Matt is correct, then dislike this video. I must stress again, please don't vote on whether you believe there is voting fraud or not. Just vote on whether you agree with the specific argument in this video. It would be nice to get Matt's response to this, as there are so many people arguing both sides of this subject in his comments. But he has more than 500,000 views on his video and more than 6,000 comments, so I expect my video will be just noise. Perhaps if enough people post a link to this video, it might get his attention. In my next video, I'll investigate what the mysterious Y parameter might actually mean. And in that video, I will try to make a conclusion about whether Dr. Shiva is right about mysterious patterns in the data and voter fraud. It's super interesting, so if you want to be notified when that video is published, subscribe to this channel.